you, cooler. Mo Molly. Molly. Morning. Quit trying to slap box or whatever the kids are calling it these days. If you're gonna be here, I need you to act professional. You can take out your complaints or your aggression later, but not on screen, please. Hey everybody, welcome into Folklore and Flourish. You are here with Jane and Molly today. Today we are beginning our fourth and final week of July with the divine withdrawing. So we have had a full month full of gods and titans. There's been some kind of difficulty with the new Riverside editing thing that I've been using. I'm just getting used to it. So some of the previous episodes should have been videos or at least have visual stuff. We're trying to get that figured out. And anyways, today we kick it off with the hiding god. So today is all about the hiding god as we start off with our week of the divine withdrawing from us. It has been a fun month full of gods and titans in the divine witness, but now they are finally leaving us, which is the beginning of the era we are in now, huh, Molly? Our theme is withdrawal. So we start off the week of everyone withdrawing with the very theme of it today with the overall withdrawal. And our lesson is that absence tests faith. Okay, so when people are not here, when things are not constantly holding our hands or seen, does that mean we no longer have faith in them? So we kind of look at that absence today through 4 different folklore. We see it through Egyptian, Igbo, Chinese, and Celtic today. And the question for today is, what left me? So today we get to kind of acknowledge the thing that left us, whether that be something that we are thankful for, something that we are struggling with, or maybe it's just something that at one point we truly thought it left and we had to go through all those trials and tribulations to realize that it was there the whole time. Whatever the story may be, we know that a lot of the time, faith tends to be something that people struggle with because it requires you to believe in things that you can't always see, you can't always prove, whatever it may be. Just because things aren't seen or aren't actively engaging in ways that we believe they could be doesn't mean that they aren't there. So we're going to think about what left me today. Molly, what left you? Besides all your treats, because you're kind of on a diet. It's okay. I have to. And then we are going to sit in silence to feel what absence reveals when nothing fills the space. So when we are sitting here in the silence, what does that absence fill? What is that absence taking up? What exactly does it look like, feel like? And then ultimately, what does it reveal about ourselves? And then the final thought for today is that we are going to remain attentive to what absence teaches rather than rushing to replace it. So that's been a big thing in my life. And this whole past year, I mean, I've had this huge career shift in the sense that there isn't a shift. I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do besides this business stuff and writing books with Mark and podcasting with Molly. And so that's been a huge shift for me. A big absence in my life was a life that I thought, or a career I thought I would end, with. And now I'm in a place where that's just not who I am nor who I want to be anymore. And so now, rather than rushing to replace it this past year, I've really been looking at what is it that I want, that I need. Ran for the assessor I didn't get that, but holy smokes, did I get more votes than I thought I would in the primary. 30% running against someone who's already had the position. I felt like I did pretty good. 30% of the party's votes. And so I ran for that. That taught me a lot. Working with the jury stuff taught me a lot. And now I'm at this point where I've kind of realized what I am going to be doing. So yeah, I'm at a huge kind of opening, starting door today. And it's funny because it's in a week where the divine withdrawals, and we're taking a second to look at the absence and what it reveals about us. So, I'm just in this phase where everything's getting better, everything is coming up. I've gone through a tough time. There's constantly tough times, right? But I've gone through this tough stage in my life, and now I'm finally seeing the other side where that identity is not even associated with me anymore, and I can step into something new, and I'm excited. So, there's a lot of potential, a lot of opportunity and possibility that comes in the absence. And sometimes that absence also reveals that while we may not see things, this is a big major part of us, um, that might not be able to be seen or identified right away. But enjoy these 4 stories. Enjoy the day this week, the beautiful weather you may be having outside, or maybe you're having terrible weather. Enjoy that too if you can, any way, shape, or form. And then just have a great rest of your day. And I will see you guys tomorrow, and hopefully we'll figure out this video stuff and you'll see more of me, because I know you guys are here for me and not Molly, even though Molly tries to steal the spotlight all the time. Yeah, she's sitting in her dad's chair just giving me the evil eye because I mentioned her treats and diet. So now we have to go have a talk, because it probably wasn't okay for me to mention that. It wasn't okay, Molly. Molly, you're beautiful. I just want you to live a long life. Yeah, you just want treats. See you guys. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. Story 1. When Ra departed the earth. There was a time, the ancient Egyptians remember, when heaven rested close enough to touch, and the greatest of the gods walked openly among humanity. During the first time, known as Zep Tepi, the radiant sun god Ra ruled not from a distant sky, but from the earth itself. His light did more than warm the fields of the Nile. It illuminated every path, every kingdom, and every human heart. Under his gaze, the world knew its proper order. The gods walked among rivers and gardens. Humanity lived beneath the direct presence of its creator. The boundary between heaven and earth had not yet been drawn. Yet as ages passed, humanity forgot the gift it had been given. People grew proud. They whispered against the old king, believing his strength had faded with time. Rebellion spread quietly across the land until the very beings fashioned beneath Ra's light plotted against the one who had first brought order from the waters of noon. Saddened by what he witnessed, Ra gathered the gods into secret council. Justice would come, yet something far greater would also change forever. After order had been restored, Ra looked upon the earth he had lovingly governed and understood that the age of walking beside humanity had reached its end. At his command, the sky goddess Nut rose in majestic splendor. her immense body arching over the world like a living canopy of stars. Lifted upon her back, Ra ascended into the heavens, where he would thereafter sail across the sky each day in his radiant solar bark, illuminating the earth from above rather than beside it. Each evening he disappeared beneath the western horizon to journey through the mysterious Dua, overcoming the forces of chaos before rising again with the dawn. Humanity still received his light. They still depended upon his care, but they would no longer walk with him face to face. From that day forward, heaven stood high above the earth, separated by the body of Nut herself, while the air between them became both a reminder of divine majesty and a measure of human longing. Every sunrise testified that Ra remained faithful to creation, yet every sunrise also reminded humanity that something precious had been lost. The Creator had not abandoned the world, he had become hidden beyond its reach. The Egyptians remembered that absence is not always the same as rejection. Sometimes the greatest distance is born from the breaking of a relationship that once allowed heaven and earth to stand together. So each morning, as the first rays of sunlight spilled across the Nile, people lifted their faces toward the eastern horizon, greeting the God whose presence still sustained their lives, even though they could no longer walk beside him as their ancestors once had. Story 2. When Chukwu grew distant. There was a time, the Igbo people of present-day Nigeria remembered, when heaven rested so near the earth that the Creator's presence could almost be touched. The supreme God, Chukwu, dwelt close to humanity, filling the world with life, abundance, and sacred order. The sky arched low above the villages, close enough that people spoke of it not as an unreachable vault, but as something woven into daily life. Every harvest, every birth, every river, and every sunrise reflected the nearness of the one from whom all blessings flowed. Humanity lived beneath a heaven that seemed almost within arm's reach. Yet the closeness of the Creator also demanded reverence, and over time that reverence began to fade. One beloved tradition tells of an elderly woman preparing fufu, rhythmically raising and lowering her wooden pestle until, day after day, it struck the low sky above. Others describe smoke from countless cooking fires continually rising into heaven, while others still remembered humanity's growing carelessness, noise, quarrels, and disregard for the sacred order established by Chukwu. Though the stories differ in their details, they carry the same quiet truth. The distance between heaven and earth was not created in a single moment, but through countless ordinary acts in which people gradually forgot the holiness surrounding them. At last, Chukwu withdrew. Slowly, almost gently, the heavens rose higher and higher above the earth until no human hand could touch them again. The Creator did not cease to govern the world. Rain still fell upon the fields. Children were still born. Rivers continued their patient journey to the sea. Crops still answered the seasons, but something had undeniably changed. Humanity could no longer live beside the Creator as they once had. Between heaven and earth now stretched a distance measured not only in height, but in memory. The elders taught that Chukwu's withdrawal was never meant to inspire despair. Instead, it became an invitation to remember what had been forgotten. Every act of justice, every expression of gratitude, every kindness offered to a neighbor, and every reverent prayer became a way of turning the heart once again toward the Creator, whose presence still sustained the world, even from beyond immediate sight. Looking across the wide Nigerian sky, one could still feel that heaven was watching, though it no longer rested just above the rooftops. The Igbo remembered that the greatest losses often arrived quietly, not with thunder or fire, but through the slow fading of a relationship rejected over time. Yet they also believed that while heaven may become distant, the Creator never ceases to hear those who sincerely seek him. 3. The Yellow Emperor ascends to heaven. The ancient Chinese remembered a distant age when heaven did not seem impossibly far away, and the greatest rulers were believed to govern with wisdom that reflected the order of the cosmos itself. Among them, none stood higher than Huangdi, the Yellow Emperor, the legendary sovereign whose reign marked the dawn of civilization. To later generations, he became far more than a king. He was remembered as a culture hero who united rival tribes, established just government, encouraged agriculture, developed medicine, ordered the calendar, advanced astronomy, and inspired countless arts that allowed humanity to flourish. Under his guidance, the rhythms of heaven and earth seemed to move together in remarkable harmony. Seasons arrived in their proper time. Rivers nourished the land, the stars traced their appointed paths above, while below, humanity learned to build a world that reflected the balance of the universe itself. Yet no earthly age was meant to last forever. After completing the work entrusted to him, Huang Di did not die as ordinary mortals do. The oldest traditions tell that as his earthly mission drew to his close, a magnificent dragon, long, descended from heaven in radiance. Its scales shimmered like polished gold, its whiskers flowed like clouds upon the wind, and its immense body coiled between the earth below and the celestial realms above. Before the gathered people, Huang Di mounted the dragon's back. Slowly it rose into the heavens, climbing through the brilliant sky until emperor and dragon disappeared beyond human sight. Some accounts say only his robe and bow remained upon the earth, silent reminders that he had truly departed. Others simply remembered that heaven had called him home. The people stood watching long after the dragon vanished, their eyes fixed upon the empty sky, where the ruler who had walked among them could no longer be seen. Yet they did not believe Huang Di had abandoned them. His teachings remained, his wisdom endured, the order he had established continued to shape the generations that followed. Though the emperor himself now dwelled among the immortals, every carefully planted field, every physician who healed the sick, every astronomer who charted the stars, and every just ruler who sought harmony carried forward a small reflection of the heavenly order he had revealed. In time, Huang Di became honored as one of the great immortals whose presence belonged not to the visible world, but to the eternal realm above. The ancient Chinese saw in his ascent a profound truth. There are moments when heaven draws its greatest teachers back to itself, not because they have ceased to care for humanity, but because what they came to establish must now live within the hearts of those who remain. Sometimes the highest expression of divine guidance is not to stay forever, but to leave behind a path worthy of following. Story 4: The Gods Beneath the Hills. Long before Ireland's green hills echoed with the footsteps of kings and monks, the island belonged to the Duaha de Danann, the radiant people of the goddess Danu. They arrived from the mysterious northern isles wrapped in mist, carrying 4 sacred treasures unlike anything the world had seen. The Stone of Fall, which cried out beneath the rightful king, the Spear of Lu, whose victory could never be denied, the Sword of Nuada, from which no enemy escaped, and the Cauldron of Dagda, whose abundance never failed those gathered around it. They were masters of pottery, healing, music, craftsmanship, wisdom, and magic. Rivers flowed beneath their blessing, forests answered their songs. Great halls shimmered with silver and gold, where feasts seemed untouched by time itself and laughter carried through valleys that would one day become only quiet hills. For generations they ruled Ireland, overcoming the monstrous Fomorians and establishing an age remembered as one of extraordinary beauty and balance. Yet every age, even a golden one, must one day yield to another. When the Milesians, the ancestors of humankind, arrived upon Ireland's shores, a final contest decided who would inherit the visible world. Though the Duaha possessed immense wisdom and power, they accepted that the time appointed for their open reign had come to its end. Rather than clinging to dominion through endless war, they chose another path. Led by the Dagda and the Manannan Mac Lir, lord of the other world and the sea, they withdrew from mortal sight. The great halls faded into shimmering light. Their cities disappeared beneath ancient mounds, within hidden valleys, beneath lakes, and inside the hollow hills known as the She. To human eyes, these places appeared to become nothing more than grassy knolls scattered across the Irish countryside. Yet the old stories insist that beyond those green slopes lay magnificent kingdoms where music never ceased, orchards never withered, and time itself flowed differently than in the world above. The gods had not died. They had not abandoned Ireland. They had simply stepped beyond the veil. From then onward, those with humble hearts sometimes glimpsed impossible lights dancing over lonely hills or heard distant songs carried upon the evening wind. Travelers spoke of doors opening where none had stood before, revealing radiant feasting halls before vanishing again into the morning mist. The Irish remembered that the divine world had not disappeared. It had become hidden just beyond ordinary sight. Every hill might conceal a palace. Every quiet meadow might cover an ancient throne. Every whisper of wind across the grass might carry echoes from a kingdom that still endured beneath the earth. In withdrawing from the visible world, the Tuatha De Danann transformed Ireland itself into a landscape of sacred memory, where the boundary between heaven, earth, and the other world remained wonderfully thin for those willing to believe. Daily Thread for July 22nd, The Hiding God. There is a quiet moment found in many of the world's oldest traditions when the divine, once so near, becomes suddenly distant. Today's story invites us into that sacred silence. In Egypt, Ra withdrew from the earth after humanity turned against the order he had lovingly established. Ascending into the heavens where his light would still reach the world each morning, though his footsteps would no longer walk beside it. Among the Igbo, the creator, Chukwu, gradually became more distant as ordinary acts of carelessness and forgotten reverence slowly widened the space between heaven and earth. Ancient China remembered the Yellow Emperor mounting a celestial dragon and ascending into heaven, bringing an end to the age when a ruler shaped by heaven lived openly among humanity. And in Ireland, the Tuatha De Danann quietly entered the Sea, disappearing beneath the green hills, where their radiant halls remained hidden beyond the veil of ordinary sight. Though these stories arise from lands separated by continents and centuries, they whisper a remarkably similar truth. The divine is not always absent because it has ceased to care. Sometimes it withdraws because an age has ended, sometimes because a relationship has been wounded, sometimes because its work has been completed, sometimes because what is sacred must now be sought rather than simply seen. The oldest storytellers understood that faith often begins where certainty ends. When heaven no longer stands within arm's reach, people lift their eyes toward the sunrise. They look beyond the hills. They remember the song of their ancestors. They preserve the wisdom left behind. Absence becomes an invitation rather than an ending. As tonight's fires settle into glowing embers, consider this. Have there been seasons when what I value most seemed strangely distant? Did that distance teach me to seek more deeply, to listen more carefully, or to treasure what I had once taken for granted? The ancient stories remind us that silence is not always emptiness. Sometimes it is the quiet space where longing grows, memory awakens, and the search for the sacred truly begins.